So the input, 2 or 3 things, output an EPC, but behind it, real power. Here's another example where people might be interested in the domestic market of knowing what control scenario to pursue. So it's quite possible to configure models of the domestic sector, lots of them, and then to pre-simulate all the different control permutations, keep all those results away, and then let them come in and say, well, what would happen if I had this type of control? Upgrade my house to that. And you go off and you give a dynamic result without any need to define, the size of the radiator and the length of the pipes and so on. It's parameterized. Similarly here, if you want to design a biomass boiler, all the permutations have been done for that. And a recent one we did in Kickstart was a post-occupancy evaluation, where you go in and you find out there's a problem, and then comes the rub. What do we do? So you kind of pre-simulated actions. So you're really just going in and saying, well, I think I'll pick that one, and you've already quantified it. So they're all dynamic models, but you never need to feed the data required. To just finish the modeling side, what you're going to see more and more in future is in our homes and offices and so on, internet access, and we are going to buy services. At the moment you download a video, it's a service. Care for the elderly, where you look at temperature and movement, and you can protect people in buildings, or security. But you can start to have all sorts of energy services, environmental monitoring and smart metering, and local and aggregate control. A signal goes out, all fridges in the east end of Glasgow off for 45 seconds, as long as the compartment temperature is below something. And that's equivalent to not starting a turbine at some local power station. And if you allow that in your home, you get a bit of preferential tariff. That's an e-service, and so on. And these will be delivered using internet or wireless infrastructure, but they'll be delivered by service companies using these modeling tools to know what's the best action to take before sending out the actuation signals. In order to achieve this world, we need a modeling-based design evolution. Complicated slide, very simple method. We can't just put programs into offices. We need someone to control these methods. I call it a performance assessment method, so that red is action, yellow is knowledge. So we establish a model for an unconstrained base case. So someone in the office has to say, where are we going to start? Then we've got to calibrate the model using a reliable technique. Who's responsible for calibrating it? What's the reliable technique? Assign a boundary conditions of appropriate severity. What are we trying to do here? So what constitutes a good boundary condition? So these are methodological questions, and these can be set up for everything we might conceivably want to do. So my thesis is, how might we deliver that? My question is, how might we deliver that into practice? And my answer is, embed all of this in CAD. So that as you have a session with CAD, there will come critical trigger points where the little postage stamps on my previous slide can be fired off. The fact that there's a computational agent doing a complete three-dimensional, multi-chromatic lighting simulation, you didn't ask for it. All you did was put in geometry and construction. And it knows it's got sufficient information to spawn that off. So a little while later, something will appear on the screen. Oh, by the way, this is what it will look like, or this is the daylight you could get access to. So it's a different model than the one we've known in the past. And I think this could be well embedded within CAD. In a way, I'll just read this out, to embed high-fidelity tools, which they are, within work practices in a manner that supports virtual design through the interactive manipulation of a design hypothesis with performance feedback in real time. You're just talking, and suddenly you're getting performance feedback. It's real time in the sense it's timely. It's not like you say, do a lighting simulation and get the answer now, but you're working away in something, and then up pops the results from a lighting simulation. And these would be the adaptations that would be required to the CAD BIM, because historically CAD is not concerned with integrated building performance simulation. Integrated building performance simulation is the superset data set. CAD is a very weak subset. But a little speed read of that, all the different things we would need to add in, because this is what integrated building simulation requires. And just 3 little technical things to finish. First thing we need to do is change the data model of CAD. Integrated building performance simulation is a superset. CAD is the best agent, however, for manipulating the data model. And this is a NIAM representation of data. And they've been well researched, these representations. We know what they are. And all we need to do is inside the CAD system, extend the data model. And lots of people are working on that now. They tend to be working in areas which are not quite the ones in the previous slide, but it's not rocket science to move it in that direction. Second thing is we need to change the user interface. We need to separate out the various aspects of how we talk to users, handle the dialogue, because at some stage in the CAD thing you're going to have to say, I need to have a little discussion now about control systems. And you can't suddenly just do that in the middle of an architectural dialogue where the architect says, whoa, whoa, I don't know anything about this. So there's got to be a recognition that we separate out the way we have dialogues, where we place the knowledge, how to handle users, how to handle applications. The other area that would be required in CAD would be an explicit process model, which defines formally the workflow and performance assessment approaches to be undertaken. What applications should be used, by whom and when, and against what performance assessment methodology, as previously explained. And again, CAD is the best agent for this, and there's been significant work undertaken to date to look at the best way of representing process and making the process model explicit. And these types of formalisms could be readily embedded within CAD to control that process. So, where to for the practitioner or the student who wishes to start the long voyage into this world of explicit simulation, emulating future reality at the design stage? And I bring to your attention a couple of possibilities. One is the existence of the International Building Performance Simulation Association, and this organization has existed now for some time and has regional affiliates throughout the world, with new regional affiliates being set up each year. So it might be possible to contact an affiliate in your region and become engaged with like-minded individuals in trying to see where and how this powerful new design tool might be applied. There are other initiatives, particularly here in Scotland, with European regional development funding, such as Kickstart Online, such as the Scottish Energy Systems Group, such as RenewNet, which is concerned with renewables. And these organisations can provide the kind of initial funding which could be used to, for a practice to get some experience with explicit computational modelling. So to conclude my presentation today, the real need, as long ago recognised by Robert Shaw, is to leave future generations with knowledge and capital such as they can obtain a quality of life at least as good as ours all in all. So against that definition of sustainability, I would suggest that the best way forward is to pay attention firstly to environmental quality and energy efficiency. That's the prerequisite of all that follows. To take steps to make sure we can prolong the useful life of the fossil fuels, of course making them cleaner in the process. And those two things together can buy us the necessary time to bring forward the new and renewable energy system solutions, which will take some time to deploy at the scales required. And in order to make good judgments, take effective action, that will require much more powerful tools than the profession has previously used, and I believe that those tools should be integrated building performance simulation, embedded within CAD, CAD being therefore the agent of control. And so that brings me to the end of my presentation today, and I'd like to thank you all very much for listening in, and I hope you each take something of value from what I've discussed today. Thank you.